What's up, fam? How is everybody doing? Today is either Tuesday or Wednesday because I'm going to use the same little pre-recorded clip for both days to read you the UN 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights that is going along with the conversations you've been having with Ms. Sequoia and the Socratic seminar that we're going to have at the end of the week here. So our objective for today, Tuesday, and Wednesday, tomorrow, whichever this is, if you're watching, it's going to be the same. It is students will evaluate how our society measures up to the 1948 UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's our objective. That is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to look at a document that's 72 years old and compare how our society is doing on these particular things. We're doing this because, obviously, our area, our country, our world, there's a lot of unrest. There's a lot of things that are going on. It's becoming more and more apparent that there are people that are not being treated the way they should. But we want to look specifically at our country and our community because our community got rocked this summer. And I know it impacted a lot of people. So that's what we're going to do today and tomorrow, which will lead us to our Socratic seminar on Thursday. So, and for the Socratic, those of you that are going to be on campus that day, we'll do it with Mr. Wongard. If you're at home, you're going to do it with me. I don't know exactly what those details are going to look like. We might have to do it in multiple sessions because that would be a lot of people to have one Socratic seminar online. But we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. Figure it out, figure it out. I find myself dancing a lot in my basement all of a sudden. It's Thursday of our first week. So things have been great. So here we go. What I want to do is I want to share my screen. I want to share this particular tab. Here we go. All right, awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in so you can read this a little bit more as I go. 150, perfect. All right. So the United Nations is an organization that was created shortly after World War II as a group, and there are 140 some countries in it now, but originally it was around 50. A group of countries that came together to ensure, one, that World War never happened again, and two, that human rights and people from all countries were being treated the way they should be. So they started in 1945. This document came out 3 years later in 1948. So we are looking at a document that's 70 years old. And we're going to try to evaluate how our society, our country is doing in regards to this document. So I'm going to read the preamble to you, which explains what the purpose of this document is. Now, with it, there are 29 articles. To start the year, we're only going to start with 1, 3, 5, and 7. But throughout the year, we're going to come back to a few of them just as we talk about different things. You know, there are different topics we'll face this year that will require us to come back to it. So these are just what we're going to do. But here is the preamble. That's the beginning, the introduction. Whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts. Barbarous is just very brutal, sickening, very physically not good. Like physical torture, things like that would be considered barbarous, which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Whereas it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse meaning a way to complain, appeal, air your grievances, have things made right if people do wrong to you. As a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law, whereas it is essential to promote the development of friendly relations between nations. So the second part is saying, if basic human rights are not upheld in each and every country for each and every person, then tyranny and oppression will start and rebellions will follow. All right. Whereas the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter affirmed their faith in the fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, and in the equal rights of men and women, and have determined to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. This part to me stands out incredibly. Whereas the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter reaffirmed their faith in the fundamental human rights. Fundamental human rights. Human. This is something that I think is sorely missing in our society right now, is we don't look at a human being. We look at groups of people. When you look at groups of people, it's much easier to just blanket statement that they're a certain way or they're a certain group. But when you look at a human being, you look at their face, you listen to their story, you can't say the kind of things to them that people just blanket statement about groups of people. In the dignity and worth of the human person, the dignity and worth, those words stand out to me. Nothing is more important than for people to have dignity and worth. Dignity, respect, people honor them. They feel good about who they are as a person, and they have worth. They can contribute. They can be a part of society, and in equal rights of men and women. And we know now that we've expanded that to all types of different genders. So that part's huge to me. That's why I bolded almost the entire thing. Whereas member states have pledged themselves to achieve, in cooperation with the United States nations, the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Whereas a common understanding of these rights and freedoms is of the greatest importance for the full realization of this pledge. Now, therefore, the General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constant in mind, shall strive by teaching and educating. Teaching and educating, teaching and educating, teaching and educating. They're talking about this 72 years ago, that teaching and educating is important to promote respect for these rights and freedoms, and by progressive measures. Teaching and educating to promote respect for these rights. We need to be teaching these things to each other, not just as teachers of students, but as people. We got to teach it to our people. We got to pass it down that these rights are important, is what this is saying. Respect for rights and freedoms by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance, both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. Whew. That got me fired up, man. I got jazzed for that. This is such an important statement. This is such an important statement. It's such an important thing to read and to say. That 72 years ago, people were saying we need to do these things. And it's our job right now to take a look at whether we're actually doing them. So that's what we're going to do here. That's what we're going to do here. Poof, it's the next day and I'm wearing the same clothes. Holy cow. I'm funny. I'm a funny person. All right, so Article 5 and Article 7. So we're doing the same thing. Today's Wednesday. We're on this thing where we're evaluating how our society measures up to the 1948 UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So You done 1, you done 3. We're going to do 5 and 7. Now, I don't feel the need to belabor what you're doing. So I'm going to read 5 for you. I'm going to read 7. We're out of here. You're going to work on it. I'm going to talk a little bit about going into the Socratic seminar again, because that's what we're going to be doing next. So Article 5. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Man, a lot of words in there. A lot of important stuff there. If I'm being honest, when we're talking about George Floyd tomorrow, that's going to be a point that we're going to come back to right there. Number 5 is going to be probably the one where we're going to stay. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment. Degrading, meaning to make someone feel less than, to make them less than they actually are as a person. Degrading means to take away from what something actually is. All right. So you're doing the questions. What words stand out? What is it trying to say? How are we doing on it? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. I'm going to actually, I think I can do this. I'm going to just put a couple spaces here. And make sure with number 3 to explain it. Explain your reasoning behind it. This is the 8th grade. Let's go. Number 7. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law, and are entitled to protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement of such discrimination. One more time. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. All are entitled. Entitled. What does that word mean? That's a key word right there. I'm going to tell you. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement of such discrimination. Ooh, that's good. Number 7. What does it mean? What are the key words in there? What are the key words and why are they important? What is this article? This is the longest one I gave you, so you're going to have to kind of crunch it down, sum it up. What is its intention? What is its true meaning? What are they trying to get people to do in response to this article? And 3rd, how are we doing on it right now? Explain your answer. So, man, I'm so pumped for this. I'm going to jump back in just a second, give you a second to kind of grab your thoughts. And then I'm going to give you a little preemptive for the Socratic seminar that's coming up on Thursday. Let's go. Hey everybody, so we're at the end of this lesson. We are feeling good. We've evaluated the 1948 UN Declaration of Human Rights and how we're doing on it so far. So tomorrow, I should say, we're gonna have a Socratic seminar talking about specifically what happened with George Floyd and the impact it's had on our community. Just a refresher on what a Socratic seminar is. We sit in a circle, we talk, we share, one person speaks at a time. You don't need to raise your hand, you don't interrupt, you don't name call, you don't insult. And you cite the work we've done. So you're going to cite either things from the UN document or things you've seen online. My role during this will be to fact check anyone who I think is saying things that are not true. Okay, because there's a lot of information out there and there are a lot of opinions. I get that this could be a heated topic when we start talking about protests and riots and all of those different things. But we want to base our arguments and our points of view on fact. So let's make sure that we do that. Now, B cohort people, you're going to be working with Mr. Wongard on campus. A cohort people, I'm not sure if I'm going to have you wait and do this with Mr. Wongard next week, or maybe do it with us during the distance learning time on Thursday. I haven't decided. But what I want to make sure that I do is that everybody's got a chance to speak. Everybody is being heard. So we're really proud of the work you've done this week with Ms. Sequoia and myself and Ms. Enki and Mr. Wongard. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to this. Now, I know it's going to be a Socratic seminar for some of you that's way different than we've ever done online, so it should be interesting. I think it's going to be fun. So great job yesterday and today, all week. You're doing awesome, and let's finish up the week tomorrow strong.